He cuffed him before Elias Thorne could even speak, in no warning. No hesitation, just cold steel biting into his wrists. Elias stood beneath the elegant awning of Sterling Trust Bank in Oak Haven, dressed in a charcoal suit, phone to his ear, when Officer Marcus Reed descended like a hammer. Within seconds, Elias was spun around and restrained, as if his presence alone in that upscale neighborhood was a threat. Reed didn't ask questions, didn't check ID. He barked for backup. A second officer arrived, hand on his sidearm, already viewing Elias as a suspect, not a citizen. Loitering with intent, Reed announced, loud enough for the nearby crowd to hear, a phrase that needed no explanation to those trained to see guilt in skin tone rather than behavior. The woman in the bank paused her signature. A delivery man across the street shook his head, not surprised, just resigned. No one stepped in, not because they didn't care, because they knew how these stories usually ended. But here's what they didn't know. Elias Thorne wasn't confused, lost, or waiting idly. He was exactly where he needed to be. And Officer Reed? He'd regret not checking that ID. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a warning shot misfired at the wrong man. Elias Thorne's journey didn't start here. IT began beneath a dim lamppost in the rough district of New Birmingham. His mother cleaned offices she could never enter during business hours. His father taught him that silence wasn't surrender. It was a weapon, if wielded with precision. Elias took that to heart. Law books became his refuge. By 35, he'd reshaped accountability policies across 4 states. His reports guided federal ethics boards. He avoided headlines, changed systems, not just stories. A T1 firm, a louder, less capable colleague, was promoted for optics. Elias didn't complain. He remembered. And later, in front of federal panels, that same colleague faltered while Elias sat silent, unshaken. Every Saturday, Elias returned to communities like the one he grew up in. No cameras, no fanfare. He taught young students how to speak truth in rooms designed to ignore them. But Officer Reed didn't see any of that. He saw a black man standing alone in Oak Haven. Earlier that day, Reed had praised a polished intern. Future leadership, he'd said. Hours later, he was shoving Elias against his cruiser. Reed leaned in. They always act innocent until they snap. He wasn't speaking to Elias. He was speaking about him, loud enough to frame a narrative. Elias looked up. "I'm waiting for my associate," he said, calm, factual. But Reed saw defiance in confidence. He struck the phone from Elias's hand. It skidded toward a storm drain. Across the street, someone pressed record. In a parked car, a woman tapped an earpiece. A team by the bus stop raised his phone, capturing the moment. "On the ground now." Reed barked, shoving Elias into the hood of the cruiser. The cuffs were cinched cruelly tight. This wasn't law enforcement. It was theater. As the cruiser door slammed shut, Elias finally spoke. "You might want to double-check what you're writing down." Reed laughed, but there was a crack in it now. A sliver of doubt. Inside the precinct, the shift was immediate. Rain still clung to Elias's jacket as he was dragged in. Laughter faded. Phone stilled. Reed marched in like a storm, but no one met his eyes. No one ever questioned Reed, until now. "I'll walk," Elias said quietly as they passed security. His calm was eerie, controlled. At the scanner, Elias pressed his thumbs subtly to his belt. A security camera blinked twice. Somewhere, watchers began watching. "Pretty sure I've seen him before," a young officer murmured. "Nah," another said. "Too clean. Looks like a lawyer, not a perp." Confusion seeped in. Reed shoved Elias at the fingerprint station. No special treatment. The tech hesitated. That wasn't procedure. It was personal. But he scanned Elias's prints anyway. Silent. "Eye in the back," officers chuckled. Reed always knows. But the technician kept glancing at Elias, unsettled by how still, how unbothered he remained. Not resisting, not reacting, just waiting. And then a beep. A file popped up on the tech screen. His eyebrows rose. He blinked. Twice thought he looked up at Elias. Then at Reed. Then back to the screen. The silence thickened. Who was this man? The precinct fell into a strained silence as Elias Thorne stood motionless at the fingerprint station. The machine beeped softly, capturing the ridges of the hands they assumed were criminal. But in a quiet, secured room on the upper floor, a different screen lit up. The data pinged across encrypted networks. Within seconds, two names flashed on a classified internal alert. Elias Thorne, Federal Oversight Division, Internal Affairs Liaison. Clearance level, red. A sharp knock echoed in the captain's office. "Sir," said a junior officer, breathless. "We have a situation." Captain Darrell Hartley frowned. "What kind?" The junior hesitated. "Thorne, the man Reed brought in. He's not just a lawyer. He's the one sent from Washington." Hartley's face drained of color. "Get Reed." Now, downstairs, Elias remained silent. Officer Marcus Reed, still charged with arrogance, leaned against the desk, arms folded, acting like he'd just scored a routine arrest. His partner hovered nearby, shifting uncomfortably. There was something about Elias's stillness, his unbroken calm, that was now starting to feel off. "Enjoying the silence?" Reed sneered. "Let me guess, you're gonna pull the wrongfully arrested card? Good luck." Elias didn't answer. He simply raised his eyes and met Reed's gaze. And this time, the look wasn't indifferent. It was calculated. Reed, for a flicker of a second, felt something chill his confidence. Footsteps thundered toward the room. "Reed," barked Captain Hartley, entering like a storm. "Step away from Mr. Thorne. Now." Reed blinked. "Sir?" He was loitering. Suspicious. Hartley cut him off. "You didn't check his ID?" Reed faltered. "It was dismissed." He resisted. "He's Federal Oversight. Internal Affairs. He outranks me." Silence detonated across the room. Reed's mouth opened, but no sound came. His partner looked like he wanted to disappear. The tech at the fingerprint station swallowed hard and stepped away from Elias. Hartley turned to Elias, voice measured. "Mr. Thorne, I sincerely apologize for no need," Elias replied calmly, brushing his sleeve. "I prefer to observe systems unfiltered. Today provided clarity." He turned toward Reed. "I was sent here to review patterns of misconduct. This precinct has had complaints, racial bias, excessive force, profiling. I didn't expect to become one of the data points, but here we are." Reed's face flushed deep crimson. You set me up?" Elias tilted his head. "I didn't have to." He retrieved his wallet from the evidence tray, opened it slowly, revealing a federal badge that gleamed with quiet authority. "Your actions did all the revealing." Hartley, sweating now, motioned for the room to clear. But the damage was done. Whispers had already begun among the staff. "He's that guy," someone murmured. Reed stepped forward, tone defensive. "This isn't fair. I didn't know who you were." Elias didn't flinch. "And if I were just another black man in a suit, waiting for a ride, you still would have treated me like a suspect. That's the problem, Officer Reed. Not that you didn't know who I was, but that you didn't care who I could be." The weight of that statement lingered. "I filed my preliminary report," Elias added, placing a sealed envelope on Hartley's desk. "The Department of Justice will handle the rest." Reed's bravado cracked completely. "Wait, you can't just destroy my career over one incident." "One." Elias's voice remained low. "Do you know how many times people like me are cuffed for nothing but existing in the wrong zip code? You're not being destroyed, Officer Reed. You're being documented." The captain looked away, jaw clenched. Elias walked toward the exit. Just before reaching the doors, he paused, glancing toward the officers lining the hallway. "Power doesn't reside in your badge," he said. "It resides in how you wield it. Some of you might still remember that." Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened with early evening light. Elias stepped into the waiting black sedan. The driver, a quiet woman in a gray suit, glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "All recorded?" Elias asked. She nodded. "Multiple angles. Eyewitness uploads. Precinct surveillance. It's all secure." Elias closed his eyes briefly. "Good. The system never reforms when it's comfortable. Sometimes it needs a mirror." As they pulled away, his phone buzzed. A message from a community leader in New Birmingham lit the screen. "The youth center is ready for your visit this Saturday. They've got questions. You've got answers." Elias smiled faintly. That's where his true work began, not inside precincts or legal chambers, but among the ones who hadn't yet been told they mattered. Back at the precinct, Reed sat on a bench, stunned. The handcuffs he'd used so confidently now hung on the wall behind him, gleaming under fluorescent lights like a relic of misplaced power. He had cuffed the wrong man, or perhaps he had finally cuffed the right one, the one who would change everything.